Good morning. We're going to get started here. So if you want to find a seat. I grew up where nobody sat in the front row at church. So if there's nobody in the front row and you feel like maybe the Spirit is moving you to be in the front row, please move forward. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really happy to have you all here today. My name's Alicia Beck. I'm the Senior Director for Workforce Development at Parkland College. And I have Toriana Roan with me today, who's with the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission. And Toriana, your actual title is?
Program Manager.
Program Manager, and she oversees our career coaches that are part of this program. So today we're going to be talking with you about the creation of the Champaign CEJA Workforce Hub and how we've been working together to create a collaborative movement in Champaign to implement our CEJA Workforce Hub grant. So we'll have a little bit of information about the collaborative partnership, how we work to build the hub team, I think I'm stealing Toriana's slide here, but the collaborative partnership, building this workforce hub team, pathways for underrepresented demographics. We're going to talk a little bit with you about the training and educational programs that we do have in place currently and planning to do in the future. A little bit of future hub planning and lessons learned kind of thing. And then giving you an opportunity to ask some questions about what our process has been, and then maybe even provide some information, because I know we have some other hubs in here, some information and best practices maybe that you've learned, because certainly I know that we can, I call it a constant improvement, continual improvement process, right? We're not perfect, but we certainly can learn from one another, and I think this can be a great exchange as well. So, a little bit about CEJA itself. CEJA is the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, and it is a very large piece of legislation that was passed a few years ago, and comprises a variety of initiatives to support the mission of becoming a carbon-free state. We have, as our part, the workforce development piece. There are a variety of other components to the act itself that are to assist businesses and business creation, to assist infrastructure, for supporting clean jobs, and of course there's the workforce element. The purpose of today's workshop is really to share the collaborative efforts behind the creation of our CEJA Workforce Hub. There are several CEJA Workforce Hubs across the state of Illinois, and Champaign is one of those sites. And then to the east of us, we have Danville is another location for a workforce hub. And then Richland College is also another workforce hub location in Decatur, Illinois. So there we have some close partners that we can be working with as well going forward into the future. So with that, I will hand it over to Toriana to talk a little bit about the collaborative partnership and key stakeholders.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the partnership in which we kind of worked together and created in order to create this hub. So for us, we had some key stakeholders, and within that, we realized Parkland is the actual hub of the grant, but we realized that in order to make this successful, we were going to need to have those key stakeholders in place. And so we have our local community college, our workforce board, and then community-based organizations. So within that, starting with our Parkland College as the local community college, they were established in 1966. They cover the third largest of 39 districts amongst the Illinois community colleges. They serve over 20,000 students per year. And within the work that they do, it's a lot of amazing work, but they have the adult education program, they have the community education programs, CTE programs, the SWIFT program, which is support for workforce training programs. They are similar to other similar like a WIOA Title I grant, but they basically provide short-term training options that is funded through the ICCB. And they have transfer programs amongst a plethora of other programs that they do offer. So within that, we kind of got together in their CEJA, we call it the CEJA Hub responsibility, because we made sure to clearly define all of the roles within the partners that we have. So they are the administrative lead for that CEJA program. They do provide the training, and so Alicia will talk a little bit about the training a little later on in the presentation and what that entails. They also coordinate the supportive services. So with any of the participants that, if you're familiar with CEJA, if you're not, some of the parts of that is supportive services and wraparound services that individuals can get in order to go to training, so whether that's bus passes and things like that. So they do coordinate those supportive services for those individuals. And then they connect all of the CEJA project partners. So once a month, there is a CEJA Hub meeting that takes place, and it involves all of the partners, and that's where we get together and we talk about the things that are going well, what's not working, any changes that has been made, any new guidance that came out, and you have to kind of adjust at that point. So that's kind of the community college's role within that, and within our hub particularly. Then we have our workforce board. And so the Regional Planning Commission, that is the agency that I do work for. Excuse me. So we were established in 1966. We do administer over 140 grants and contracts. We have an operating budget of over $61 million. And so, as I said, we do oversee the Title I program and the East Central Illinois Workforce Board. Excuse me. I should have grabbed my water today. I left it in the car. Sorry about that. Early morning. So within that, we do serve over 30,000 clients annually. And so within our agency, we also, we're pretty diverse in our funding, which allows us to do a lot of the work that we do. So within the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission, we do have a planning and economic development department. And so we do rely on, on our partners there, our other divisions there to help with some of our economic development. We have the workforce development, which is the Title I program that I do oversee. I am the program manager for that program. And then we have a director who actually serves on the East Central Illinois Workforce Board and was instrumental in the collaboration with Parkland in creating this hub. We also have social services, so we are the CSBG administrator for Champaign County as well. The CSBG is the Community Service Block Grants, and so they do different self-sufficiency. They're a required partner of the WIOA program. And then we do also have early childhood education, so we do run the Head Start program in our division or in our community. So as you can see, we have a lot of those wraparound supports right there already in-house. So our responsibility, however, for the CEJA Hub is to provide the career counseling. So we do have, I oversee a group of 4 individual career coaches who are all assigned the individual students to help them with their career planning process. And they also have, we're also responsible for the placement services. So as you guys know, with the Jobs Center, we are in the Comprehensive Center in Champaign, the Illinois WorkNet or the American Job Center. as it's also called. The many of names that that it is called. But we are there along with, so Parkland College is there, the Illinois Department of Employment Security, the Department of DOORS Program, Division of Rehabilitation Services. So we do provide those placement services for the CEJA Hub members. So we're working with them with career counseling as they are going through the CEJA Bridge, all the way through their training. And then we do have a business service coordinator that serves as our apprenticeship specialist in the community. So it kind of made sense to include him in this project in order to kind of do that employer engagement and some employment connections for the participants as he's out meeting with our employers in the community and working on different apprenticeships and, incumbent worker training projects and all of those things that come within the business services role in engaging employers. So that's kind of the responsibility for the Regional Planning Commission within the hub. Then we have our community-based organization. And so that organization, they're called the First Followers. They were established in 2015. They are a drop-in center for those that are formerly incarcerated. And within that drop-in center, they are there to connect individuals to transitional housing. They do advocacy and outreach. They also have peer mentoring. They do family reunification services. And then they also have other service referrals to which they are connecting individuals to. And so they were kind of brought into the hub to do a lot of the outreach for us. They are very, very heavily involved in the community, and they are at a lot of events that happen in the community. They're very active. The community knows the organization. And so the hub felt that they would do a great job with that outreach part, as well as the recruitment for that. So if you're familiar with the CEJA program, those that are formerly, that were incarcerated are a part of type of eligibility amongst other things. So it just kind of made sense to bring these three organizations together. We do have some other, smaller organization with other roles. However, these are kind of the key stakeholders that we've kind of put together. So just to kind of summarize that, we have, again, the local community college, and so their role is to offer those educational programs and certifications in the clean energy fields. And again, as I said, Alicia will talk about what that process looked like in development of those training programs. And their contribution to that is that they provide that academic support for those students, the training resources, with a focus on technical and hands-on skill development. The Workforce Board, the role, again, is to just ensure the alignment of the workforce training with the labor market needs. And then our contribution is to connect those job seekers with the clean energy employers and designing the workforce development programs around the CEJA program and with that in mind as we're doing our other daily work. There's a lot of synergy and support and leveraging of funds. One of the things, for example, that we've done is, for some of the individuals, if you're familiar with the WIOA program, if they are, we've kind of co-enrolled with our youth, the individuals that are, 18 to 24 years old. We've kind of co-enrolled them with some of our WIOA youth program in order to provide work experience. So for those that weren't quite ready, maybe they've gotten the training, but they just don't have that work history. And so we've kind of explored the option of co-enrolling those individuals in order to provide some work experience opportunities for them. And then with the community-based organization, again, their role is just to engage with those underrepresented communities and provide outreach and support. And that their contribution to that is just ensuring that marginalized groups have access to resources, mentorship, and the financial support that they're needing. And that is the key stakeholders part, and I'm gonna turn it back over to Alicia for the next section.
There you go. All right, so a big piece of building a really effective team is building an inclusive community-based team. We want to make sure that we are working at a grassroots level, that we're engaging the population that we most want to serve, and that we're able to bring in folks in the community who are able to reach into those special populations that really are intended for this particular workforce training program. And clean jobs we hear a lot about, and in the state of Illinois in particular, they are fast growing in solar, wind, EV, energy efficiency. And these areas is what we're really concentrating on for clean energy jobs. We know that nationally there are some question marks right now about what the future of clean energy looks like. But in Illinois, we're still very dedicated to it, and we are definitely have an eye on training a workforce that's going to be able to provide the infrastructure that's going to be needed. State and federal investments, are really important, but local investment is a big piece of it in order for you to be able to find a diverse and ready workforce. So we rely on those state and federal and dollar investments to help us, but if you are not engaging at a local level with a very concerted and very comprehensive plan that actually is looking to engage the populations that you want to, then you're not going to be creating this diverse and ready workforce that you're desiring. So communities really must be the leaders of ensuring equity, access, and opportunity. A framework is set up for us through the CEJA Workforce Hub, but it's really up to the community to make that happen. So, of course, our vision is the inclusive pathways where people will be able to get industry credentials. So not just putting people through the paces of learning what clean energy jobs are or learning what a particular industry is, but making sure that they're coming away with usable credentials that will make them marketable on the job sites that we'll be hopefully placing them into, and ultimately giving them good jobs that will pay above a living wage. The whole concept that we are trying to do with the CEJA Hub in Champaign is really getting to the looking at what the local needs are for workforce, and so using the opportunities that we have to move students who need jobs into them. So what is the demand locally? So doing a lot of work on the ground to figure out who are the major players in the different arenas, and Toriana spoke briefly about their business service coordinator. And we also have a person on our staff who is responsible for engaging with businesses as well. And the two of them have been working together to reach out to, for example, the solar industry. One of the projects they have in the works is to bring our local solar partners to the table, which there are a number of local solar providers and installers. And we want to bring them together in a more coordinated fashion so we can learn about what their needs are and start to begin to move students from a new solar program that we've created at Parkland College and move them into the jobs that exist. And in the creation of that solar program, we've actually used a local contractor to help us both create the program and to now teach the program. So we have a local workforce partner that's engaged in that process. There are really 5 key strategies for success that I wanted to highlight today. One is engaging stakeholders early, making sure that you are beginning with the stakeholders in your community instead of trying to go back and include them. Community organizations, unions, we do have a close relationship with the East Central Illinois Building and Trades Council, as well as many other locals in the Parkland area. Adult education, which I actually is part of my department of the Workforce Department at Parkland, and our Workforce Board, which we are a great partner with and is through the Regional Planning Commission as well. There's a very close relationship with Workforce Board and Regional Planning Commission and LWIA 17. So we're lucky to have a very collaborative relationship with our Workforce Board as well. So we want to make sure that we're co-designing with community voices from the very beginning. And designing for equity, of course, is a very key piece to this. And equity is going to be different for each person, and that's the great thing about this program in particular. It does allow you to assess an individual's needs and then provide the supportive services that are specific to their needs. Things like childcare assistance, transportation assistance. And one of the great things about this particular program is the opportunity to provide hourly stipends to students while they're in attendance at classes. So our students who are in our CEJA Bridge and in our training classes receive $13 an hour, as everybody's students in the CEJA hubs do. And this is a great way for students to be able to offset some of the costs of attending class, meaning they don't get to work another job when they're in class. Plus, we all know that there are a lot of just life expenses that happen. So multiple entry points is another big piece. Our ESL classes, which are part of workforce programs at Parkland College, re-entry, which of course we have first followers doing a lot of work with re-entry for us, and then adult learners as well. So aligning with local demand, and I made mention of this a little bit earlier on the previous slide, is really important. If you're not using labor market data, please start using labor market data. Get yourself some labor market data, because it's very important to take a look at what the job, not just what the jobs are today, but what the jobs are tomorrow. And if you can project that you're going to be able to continue to support people in their trainings with jobs at the end for the next 5, 10, 15 years, it's important to recognize that you're only as effective as you are when you can provide a job for people. We can train people all day long for jobs, but if the jobs are not there, then it doesn't make sense to train them for the job that won't exist. So we do use labor market data at Parkland, and I know that they do as well at RPC, to determine what our areas of concentration will be. So as a result, we've chosen some specific programs related to clean energy that we believe there are jobs now and will be jobs in the future for. Coordinating with the regional climate and workforce plans obviously are a big piece of this, because your local workforce plan is going to be steeped in data. So if you're a community organization and you're trying to figure out what that's going to look like for the future, community colleges, we do use that data because we have to do all kinds of good reports that make us use that data. But if you're a community organization and you're trying to figure out whether or not a particular industry or particular training will result in jobs for the future, my suggestion is to connect with your workforce boards and those entities in your region, and perhaps your community college as well, to help you determine whether or not those trainings will be successful for your participants going forward. So number 4, build strong credential pathways. Partner with colleges and apprenticeships. We have accredited programs at Parkland College that have already been vetted through a whole process of determining how rigorous they are and whether or not they're meeting the needs of students and the needs of industry. We are able to be nimble on our non-credit side of the house, but on our credit side of the house, we have a very robust planning process for those programs. But within both of those, we do have embedded, stackable, and industry-recognized credentials. Those are really important. So if you're an organization that's deciding how to put your trainings together for the future, think about what those trainings look like. for your individual who's onboarding and going on an on-ramp or an off-ramp for your training programs. We often talk, and many of you probably have heard it many times, about embedded and stackable industry recognized credentials. But think about them in bite-sized ways. We have, for example, at Parkland College, our EV program. And it is embedded within our automotive program. But within our automotive program, we have embedded stackable credentials. So students will start off with, if they're on the automotive track, can start off with an automotive maintenance and light repair certification, which is a 2-semester program and is part-time. And then that leads into an automotive technician program, which is where their EV training comes in. And that then takes a full 3 semesters between the first certificate and that second certificate. Those all lead into an automotive AAS for a student associate's degree. At Parkland College, we've created a relationship with Southern Illinois University, so that associate's degree can actually lead into a transferable program with Southern Illinois University in automotive technologies. So if a student started off saying, I want to be an EV tech, they could actually start with the EV maintenance and light repair, the automotive maintenance and light repair, move into the EV tech certification. They can work as an EV tech and continue to go to school, get their associate's degree, continuing to go to school and work the entire time, and eventually transfer into a 4-year program. So, or they can stop off at any point in time. They can finish with that EV tech program and continue to work as a EV tech and have a wonderful career. So there's opportunities all along the way for stopping and starting again. They can come back again and finish that associate's degree after having worked a year or 2 as an EV tech. So that's what we talk when we're talking about embedded and stackable credentials. It's really about creating opportunities where people can onboard and on-ramp and off-ramp so that they are able to come back and really start to build those professional skills that they have already put in place. Recognized credentials is another key component because you want those students to be able to take that degree or that certificate and move to another location in the state of Illinois to use it. So if they're not staying in Champaign, maybe they're working we want them to stay in Champaign, by the way. We'd love for them to stay in Champaign and work. But maybe they take that certification and they go to the Quad Cities and they work over in that area. Or maybe they take it and they go to the Chicagoland area. But because it's a nationally recognized industry certification, their job is they are going to be much more marketable and their job possibilities are going to be much greater. And then 5, create feedback and communication loops. Toriana talked a little bit about our monthly meetings. So shared leadership model is really, really important. You want everyone to feel invested in the decision-making process, and you want everyone to feel like they're able to contribute in the ways that are most meaningful for their organizations. So ongoing tracking and adaptation is a key component. Making sure that you are tracking what the outcomes of the students are, what the experiences of the students are, and the experiences that your industry partners are having with your graduates. And then adapt as you need to over time. Sometimes that means creating new supportive services. Sometimes that means creating new certification opportunities. It might mean creating more robust work experiences for students so they have more robust work experience going into their jobs. So it's going to be a flexible and, as I mentioned earlier, continual improvement process. If you say this is the program and this is the way it always is and we're going to stick with it this way, you aren't going to be able to get to your highest levels of achievement, right? You want to be able to be flexible and nimble and say, hey, you know what, we didn't do that quite right that time, but we can do better. So ongoing tracking and adaptation. So what can you do right now? Because a lot of this is, these are things that you have to do and plan over time, but you can go back today to your organizations, because I know you're all super excited to get started on clean energy activities. And you can do a few things to help you get ready for the next steps, but also that will help you really in any kind of workforce activities that you do. One is map your local partners. Who are you currently partnering with? Who do you have active partners with? And if you don't know, then start talking to the folks around you and figure out who your organization is partnering with and who is actually missing from the table. All right, the seats at the table are not limited. You can always pull up another folding chair for somebody else. So please make sure that all the partners that are at the table are the people that need to be there. Start a planning team focused on equity and access. So a lot of talk right now about equity and access under fire nationally. State of Illinois is still very dedicated to equity and access. We want to make sure that we are providing opportunity for our students in community colleges. And to be honest, the population that we serve is an ALICE population, asset limited, income constrained but employed. And it is very much a diverse population. So we continue to have an eye on equity and access, because that's what we do as a community college. And then finally, align with clean energy grant and policy opportunities. Find out what opportunities are out there. Is there a piece of this overall CEJA legislation that makes sense for your organization? There's new opportunities being announced all of the time. Sometimes that is specific to an area like solar installation. Sometimes it's a broader piece. There might be an opportunity for you to be able to partner in as someone who's working to help be a navigator for your community. We are without a navigator in Champaign right now, and we're looking for a partner that can fulfill that role. That role means being part of that recruitment process and being out in the community and helping people to bring in partners and participants that will benefit from the CEJA training program. So there may be opportunities in your community all empty, waiting for you. So the best way for you to do that is to really reach out to DCEO and other partners that are doing clean energy work in our communities. But to do that, make sure that your organization is ready for those opportunities. And what is it that you need to do to become ready? Are you the right kind of fiscal agent for those opportunities, or do you need to partner with someone who is going to have that financial and fiscal capacity? Are you the trainer yourself? And if you're not, who in your community is a great trainer that you can bring to the table, whether that's your community college or another organization like Hire 360. There are lots of organizations in our communities that aren't community colleges that do provide training, but you want to make sure that those organizations do have those industry credentials and an eye to the pieces that are most important for your participants to attain at the end. All right, I'm going to turn it back to Toriana.
Thank you, Alicia. So we've talked about kind of our key stakeholders, and then Alicia just went over building the hub team. Once you've done that, you have your team built. I'm kind of going to go over the next steps that involve actual program, implementation. So outreach and recruitment strategy, supportive services and wraparound supports, and then just really having flexible program design and location. And that's really key to building a pathway for underrepresented demographics and ensuring that they have access and opportunity. And so within that, the first outreach and recruitment strategies. So first, kind of researching and identifying the target communities, because until you know where your target demographics are, you won't really be successful in that outreach and recruitment strategy. And so just really doing research, an annual process of analyzing census data, poverty rates, and the community violence impact, to really just provide a greater understanding of the challenges that are faced within your community, so that you can then work actively to address those challenges. Again, and that leads into that second one, working to understand the barriers and the needs. So that's working with your local community-based organizations, identifying and addressing those barriers to their education. Just whether that's conducting surveys with students, that you need to develop a deeper understanding of their barriers to education. Because I think a lot of times we think we know what the barriers to the education are, but we never actually ask those that it is affecting, right? So that's really important. And then really just, understanding how your students receive their information. And so what organizational policies you're going to need to put in place in order to ensure the success for those students. And then the third point there, just really cultivating your current partnerships and establishing expanded partnerships. So working with those local organizations, your community leaders, non-for-profits that have a strong presence and credibility in the community. So that is key, the credibility of the partner that you're, posing to work with. And so working with this group here and using this method of the researching, working to understand those barriers, and then cultivating those partnerships, collaborate and use that to design and then implement your outreach strategy. And I'll talk about that a little bit, some of the things that we've kind of done here, and that's a goal of ours. So one of the things that we are looking to focus on is like education and literacy workshops. So just kind of trying to organize workshops to provide educational literacy in the target communities. That's one of the ways to kind of learn your demographic and the barriers that they are experiencing. And it's really designed to kind of provide the steps to the participants to enroll, be successful, and kind of the educational process really seems so, for a lot of people, it seems very overwhelming and not obtainable. So just trying to bring it back to the basics and show them that this is a viable pathway for them, and they can do it quickly, as Alicia talked about, with the stackable credentials, and they can go to work and still continue to work on themselves. But then the other part is really the second one there is culturally relevant communication. So that's important, right? Tailoring your outreach materials and communication to be culturally relevant and sensitive to the target, populations that you're serving. Leveraging those digital platforms and that social media to really promote those outreach efforts. One of the things that I know with this hub, it was really just kind of doing a lot of outreach efforts at community events. So in our community, there's these big annual expungement events that kind of happen. There's community festivals, there's neighborhood parties, there's all of these different things that are happening that really house the demographic or the populations that we're looking for. And so it's important to be connected to that within the community, and making sure that you're thinking about that as you create your outreach and your recruitment strategy. Within that, the second part was the supportive services and the wraparound support. So again, you have your hub team built, you got your outreach strategy, you know how you're gonna, reach your people. But then once they get to you, all of these other things kind of come up and you're like, uh-oh. And so we've experienced it, we know in a lot of the programs that we work in, but just really ensuring that you have those supportive services and wraparound supports that are available in your area. So during that inventory first, because it's not always that the hub needs to be the one to provide those services. That's where you can look to cultivate some of those partnerships that you have. And so just, obviously, the CEJA program does help with tuition, books, stipends, and things like that. But there's other things that are, relevant: financial aid, childcare, the transportation, the case management, different mentorships, and things like that. And then the last one, which is very important, I think sometimes with some of the larger organizations it gets hard, but timely distribution of funds. They don't want to be waiting on you. You tell them you have all of these things for them, and then they go through it. They're there. They're showing up, and they're calling you up. Where's my check? Where's my check? I don't have my money. What's happening? So that's very important. And I think sometimes when I'm with a governmental agency, so we are not the quickest when it comes to that. But that's something that I advocate about all the time when I'm in those financial offices and meeting with my fiscal and financial staff, because it's important. They need these funds. They rely on them. And then last was really just the flexible program design and location. So currently the bridge classes are being offered at the East Central Illinois WorkNet Center. So it's right in the smack in the middle of a lot of the services that they're needing. And of course, if that doesn't work, then you adjust. You move it to where it's going to be beneficial to the students in your community. But the way ours is currently, the career coaches are also located in that East Central Illinois WorkNet Center. So the customers have streamlined access to both the college and workforce staff. We offer flexible schedules and training options to accommodate participants with work or family obligations. We do understand that, they're going through these classes, and when they're done, they're headed to work, or they have to pick up their kids or families. And so, obviously with our career coaches, they're trying to stay connected to them and keeping them motivated. So making sure that they understand they can, meet them outside of their class if they need to, or do Zoom meetings or, phone conferences. It doesn't always have to be an in-person, you need to get in here and meet with me. Those days are kind of, COVID kind of did away with a lot of that. So just really being flexible. Okay, and then I think Alicia's going to talk about training programs.
Yeah, I'll be brief on this piece. Training programs, the curriculum, you want to make sure that you're designing the curriculum to meet your industry needs. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Aligning it with the real workforce demands. So key elements are going to be employer-informed curriculum, and we do use advisory boards to help us make our curriculum. Hands-on training components, and we do hands-on training from the very beginning with students so they can learn how to use tools in our bridge programming, all the way through to how to actually install a solar array. Soft skills integration, of course, is a big piece. We do provide the employment skills element, and ESL and adult education alignment. So we do have ESL and adult education as part of our workforce department, as I mentioned earlier. So we do have students that may be going through our GED program at the same time that they're beginning their bridge components, so that we can start to move them into those clean energy career pathways and thinking about what that looks like. So industry-focused area examples are solar photovoltaic installation, energy auditing and weatherization, EV vehicle maintenance, and sustainable construction practices, for example, in HVAC or other green building construction practices. So CEJA-supported certifications that we have and that are generally part of curriculums across CEJA programs are an OSHA 10 or OSHA 30 certification that students come out with. These are, of course, industry certifications that are recognized across industry. NABCEP Solar Associate, which is a national organization that does solar certification. EPA 608, which is through our HVAC technicians program. They receive that certification. It's for handling of refrigerants and other things that I don't know anything about, but they're certainly very important, and I want people to know how to handle them effectively. And then BPI Building Analyst, which is Building Principals Institute's Building Analyst. We do the BSP, which is Building Science Principles, and it's a national organization that does certifications for people around energy efficiency in buildings. Career pathway examples, and I wanted to provide these just to kind of give you an idea of how you might be able to move a student through or participant through different pathway opportunities. An entry-level position might be an installer, whether that's for HVAC or for solar. An energy efficiency tech could be an entry-level job. A mid-level job they might move up into after receiving additional training or experience might be a crew lead or an energy auditor or a project supervisor. And then a long-term, you might be looking at a journey person, someone who's completed an apprenticeship, or a contractor, someone who's created their own solar business perhaps. So those are maybe some longer term goals that your participants might have that you can help move them toward.
Sorry, we're like, tag, you're it. So pretty much just to kind of wrap up the presentation so we make sure we have room for questions. So just the future of the CEJA Hub. So really just talking about sustainability, scalability, and then kind of coming up with a 3-year plan to make sure we're able to kind of sustain that. So year 1, we just kind of spent a lot of time on the startup, the planning, the training, and the capacity building. So that's hiring your staff, getting your staff credentialed, building those training programs, and really just focusing on the marketing of that. So that's just really what a lot of year 1 kind of we spent time on. And then year 2, so warming into that, we're hoping to focus on kind of new programming, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't work. Do we need, looking at that census data, again, seeing if we need to create or expand any programs that we currently have. Of course, expanding those employer partnerships. So we're wanting to, our apprenticeship specialists will really be looking to build apprenticeship programs in the clean energy sector. So that's going to be something that's very important in year 2, and just trying to kind of build the automation there with those. I mean, we know with the apprenticeships, and if we can get that employer buy-in, that can really go a long way when we're talking about sustainability for a program. And then, of course, reaching additional participants that we haven't kind of been able to reach before. And then year 3, just kind of working again on program improvement. And so that's where you're getting into kind of like your outcomes. So we're kind of going to really just be looking at that data, seeing where the students ended up, placement strategies, and then possibly looking into geographic expansion, and then really just post-grant planning. So that's kind of the future of our hub there. And so we're kind of at the conclusion here. Key takeaways, again, just kind of building your key stakeholders, focusing on then building your hub team by looking at your outreach strategies, looking at those training programs in your area. What does the data say? That like Alicia talked about. And then as you're implementing those, just really looking at your participants, what their barriers are, what's going to be helpful to them, and then ensuring that at the end of that, you're looking at the success of that and you're going back to the drawing board, looking at your takeaways, what do you need to do, what do you need to fix, and then just really your collaboration is key. So that's the power of collaboration, right? And that's pretty much it. Any questions?
She's going to bring the microphone to you if you have a question. Yeah.
So our virtual participants can hear.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was curious as to if you all had participants get through the program yet.
Have we already served participants?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have we're just finishing up our third cohort of the Bridge program. So in the CEJA programming, first students, participants start with the Bridge. Bridge prepares them and readies them for the next steps of a specific training area and gives them some initial vocabulary and experience and exposure to clean energy jobs in general. So we've had about 65 participants come through in those Bridge programs, and we've begun to move our cohort 1 and cohort 2 into our training programs that we have. So we have students that are currently in HVAC and automotive. Students will soon be starting our solar install program this month, and we have a cohort of students in a weatherization program as well. And next month, there'll be some students that'll specifically be finishing a 608 certification. So we've had a number of students that have also decided to maybe go in different ways, because this is an opportunity for people to also understand if clean energy is going to be their area, right? So sometimes they come through and they realize, okay, I have a more specific interest in this area than I realized. So we have had some students move into, for example, a construction certification that's not currently in our portfolio, but is in another program. We've had other students that have moved directly into employment. We've had some students move into the Climate Works program, which is a pre-apprenticeship program, preparing them to move into potentially union apprenticeships. Yeah.
Just to follow up to that, in terms of handling the transition to the job-specific training, did you pretty much just leverage like existing trainings and channeled your participants that way, or did you have to work with Parkland College to like create a training specific to your cohort?
Yeah, great question. A mix. So we had some existing trainings. We're lucky to have a very robust automotive program at Parkland, including our Ford Asset program. So we have been able to leverage those existing trainings and our existing HVAC training, all of which already met the credentialing needs related to CEJA. However, we didn't have a solar voltaic program. So our electrical faculty got really excited when they found out that we could create a solar voltaic program through this. So we have a course that's a specific course for solar installer that we went through the Illinois Community College Board process and created over the last year. And we'll have our first cohort go through this summer semester.
Okay, real
and
quick.
One more thing too, sorry. We do have another organization that we partner with outside of this that provides third-party training. So you can find vendors outside of your organization to provide some of those trainings as well. So, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, not at all. From our online participants, first, Jessica Green gave you a shout out from the Rockford area CEJA Workforce Hub and has a couple of questions as well. Has participant retention been a struggle at all?
Do you want to talk about that, Toriana?
I would say when we first started the process, the hub really did not get up and running, I would say November, yeah, with our first cohort, and that was the cohort that we saw the most drop off, and a lot of that had to do with at that time we weren't up and running all the way. There was still a lot of guidance coming out from the state, and so we kind of did have some struggles retaining people in the first cohort. But then by the time we got to cohort 2, we've kind of went through that first one, and we most of those individuals are still engaged, and they engaged in that, and now we're in cohort 3. So each cohort we saw the engagement increase each time, and so not as much of the drop off. A lot of them, if anything, they want to do everything. They're like, can I do this, and can I do this, and can I do that? And so trying to get them, I know the struggle for my career coaches, trying to get them to really focus in on, narrowing down their career choices. But, we'll take that all day. We'll want people that are excited and want to do multitude of things than those that are just kind of dropping off. So.
Okay, a couple more questions on that line, and then we have a couple here. So these two kind of go together. How's the Bridge structured, and how long is that Bridge program? They're kind of the same,
Yeah, so it's It's a 6-week program currently, and students come Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to noon. They are paid a $13 an hour stipend for each hour that they're in attendance. They are required to complete at least 80% of the hours that, and any time that anything that they miss, we do try to help them make that up. So there are a number of components that are required of us in the Bridge program, and those are sort of delineated by the grant requirements. But those include things like employment skills, the hands-on piece of learning how to use tools. We go through the NCCER core curriculum as well as the BSP, BPI's manual that really helps them prepare for the certification exam that they'll take at the end of our Bridge. And actually our students take their certification exam this Monday for that BSP. And in addition to those kind of core classroom elements, things like learning rigging, safety, getting their OSHA 10, getting their CPR, basic life safety, we also are providing them with opportunities for tutoring that they may need. Sometimes we find students, many times we find students who have numeracy literacy issues and aren't quite able to attain the level of numeracy skills that are needed in order to be successful in the classroom and move into those training opportunities that are waiting for them. So we do have tutoring available to them, and we pay for tutoring hours for them to go to math tutoring outside of the classroom situation. We do teach math in the classroom as well as part of the Bridge program. And we do try to incorporate opportunities for folks to go out into the actual work world. This last week, students, for example, went to the University of Illinois Medical Sciences building, and they have a great, amazing HVAC system there, which, you know, if you're into HVAC, I guess it's like state-of-the-art, amazing HVAC that is like a must-see thing. So all you HVAC people, I can arrange for a visit for you there. But they went to go see that and got a tour by an HVAC specialist. And then they did some exercises sort of out in the field, like measuring and determining, how much concrete, for example, you would need for the patio that is on the back of the Illini Union. So measuring it and saying how much material you would need in order to create that. So trying to put some of those experiences into the Bridge is a really important piece, so they're not just sitting in the classroom and learning formulas and learning sort of pictures and things like that, but actually giving them some opportunities to implement those skills that they're learning, I think is a really important element that we've been able to incorporate.
Wonderful. And last question, have you found that the community is receptive to the program?
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I would, when Toriana said earlier, was choosing organizations that have good reputations in your community. It's really important that you are partnering with people that have a reputation for good services. And Parkland is considered to be a very good community college, and in our community has an excellent reputation. So we have had a number of other programs that are underneath my portfolio, support for workforce training programs that Toriana spoke about earlier with you, that have been able to build a lot of good relationship and rapport in the community, and we've been able to leverage that as part of this and put it underneath the umbrella of those programs. So people already have a level of trust, a level of understanding, and can see that we are committed to supporting them through their whole educational process.
Thanks for the great presentation. And I know these are large, multifaceted projects. What are the current challenges that you all are facing or trying to improve on, or bottlenecks for the program?
There's always challenges, right? I mean, there's always a rough patch that you have to kind of go through. I think that one of the big challenges right now is creating a new program and implementing it. right, which is the solar installer program, and making all of those industry connections that are necessary. Nate Keener, who's in the back row here, shout out to Nate. He's been great in helping to connect us with industry partners as well, as our regional manager for the grant, and partnerships that we have existing already through our faculty. So those are important things to be doing, but can be added work, of course, right, when you're trying to administer a program. So I'd say anytime you start a new program, you do need to make sure that you have some good, strong partnerships that might already be existing in your organization or with another organization that's really strong in that area, to help make that path a little smoother. I think the other challenge that we always have is being attentive to the ever-changing lives of our students. Our lives are changing all of the time, right? We have things pop up. Our students are the same. Life happens to them, and they are happening to life. So we need to make sure that we are in constant communication with our students, and sometimes that can be challenging because communication is not a one-way street. Like I told my mother-in-law many times, you can also call us. We don't have to always call you. So we can make sure that we're in communication with students and pushing out as much information to them, but you also have to impart on them the necessity for them to communicate back with you. But giving them many opportunities to do that is important. So we try to place services where they are. For example, when we talked about the WorkNet situation, we are all partners in the WorkNet, and we all have offices at the WorkNet, and we're all located at the WorkNet. So making sure that we have those location opportunities, as well as using the modes of communication that your students or your participants are most frequently going to use. They don't email. They do not email, they text, all right? So y'all, if you aren't texting your participants, get on the text, okay? So what we do is we email and we text, and we text and we say, check your email. Your email has all the information. We can't put it all in a text, but check your email. We also, when we're meeting with participants, we don't just email them and say, your meeting is on this day. We text them a day in advance. We text them the morning of. We text them literally 5 minutes before their appointment. And we text them a link that is a virtual link that they can just virtually pop into the meeting with us. And we have greatly reduced our no-shows as a result of that, okay? So if you can do something like that, you will save yourself a lot of time and angst and a lot of empty appointments that could go to somebody else, right? So I would also recommend that.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all the great questions, and thank you to the presenters and to the virtual audience for participating online. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.